Hello everyone, welcome to the Superhero Show. Chris has returned.
Bonjour.
Is in fine fiddle.
Yeah, I am actually. Excited.
And you've got news of some interesting rumour.
Yes, I mean, massive pinches of salt here. Massive, shovelfuls. Someone called Matt Key, who's a producer on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman, which is not a bad podcast. I listen to it sporadically.
This is the guy who shouts in off mic.
Yes, that gentleman. He said, and this is quite incoherent as well, but this is the quote. I've heard from a few of my sources, my little birds,
It's like Varys.
that Fox and Marvel have kind of talked, but not really. But like, there's interest from Fox, like, oh, you know,
But not really.
What they did with Sony and Spider-Man is actually pretty cool. Like, maybe we're years away from that ever possibly happening, but I think that's what it would take. Fox joining hands with Marvel. So that is a rumor.
Well, not to slag it off too much because we're basing the entire show on it.
Yes.
But it's like, if they want to do it, it would involve them talking, probably.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the concept behind that.
Yes.
More than anything.
Yes, because obviously Fox have seen what's happened with Sony and Marvel in terms of the Spider-Man deal. Now, Spider-Man Homecoming's yet to come out, so we'll see how successful that is. But at the moment, it all looks rosy and looks like it's a deal that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like, a character that I think a lot of people, even fans of the character, felt had become fatigued, pretty quickly had been reinvigorated by Civil War.
Yeah.
So, you know, Homecoming now, if that's a tremendous success, maybe that's even a bit more food for thought.
Yes, exactly. So, is this something you'd want to see, Daniel?
So, is it something I want to see immediately? Not right now, because I feel like Marvel have planned everything for the next few years. I think if you introduce it now, it could potentially destabilise everything. I think you could do it with one character, which they've done with Spider-Man. They got him back, and they've changed their plan around him a little bit. Films have moved back. They had to rework Civil War, and luckily it worked out. But suddenly, if you drop in hundreds of characters, which the X-Men universe potentially opens up, not to mention what else could happen, which I think you're going to get onto in a minute. It's like, I think that could have just a bit too much of a warping effect on the universe, because while you can get away with Spider-Man being young and just becoming a hero, where have all these mutants been? It'd be very hard to introduce in an elegant fashion right now, but I don't think it's entirely impossible. If it was to be done, I'd rather see them cherry pick one or two characters and introduce them naturally way down the line.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me sad, because part of me does want to see Magneto and Professor X in Infinity War.
It would be good.
I think Fox also, obviously they haven't had as much success as they would have liked with Apocalypse. It's not been the biggest X-Men movie. It's been, I think, one of the most panned X-Men movies. But at the same time, Deadpool came out this year. Deadpool's now the biggest superhero in the world, pretty much.
Yeah.
They've got Gambit coming up. Like, maybe they just want to see how this pans out, because it's a slightly different direction they're probably going to move in from here on.
Yeah, I think, like we've talked about on the show recently, the relative success of Deadpool and Apocalypse has to change where they go from here.
Yeah.
They have to reorganise their priorities in face of what the audience is telling them. So I don't know what that means for the early 90s X-Men movie that Kinberg has tabled. And I don't know what that means for the Deadpool sequel. You've got to think more resource is being ploughed into the latter.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they were to do this crossover, I think it'd have to be a complete reboot of the X-Men in terms of mutants appearing now.
Absolutely.
So recasting everyone, bringing in ones that work for whatever story they choose to do.
And, you know, there will be a natural break in the MCU in the next few years when we get to the end of Phase 3.
Yep.
Marvel have already taken provisions in recent years to expand their universe and deepen it in interesting ways. They introduced the Cosmic a few years ago with Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep. That broadens their universe. They can bring Captain Marvel, eventually the Inhumans if they do want to do that.
Yeah.
And now they're introducing the Supernatural, as well as their Netflix stuff. They're trying to broaden it out to kind of get around people who are getting bored of superheroes, because, yeah, it's all superheroes, but it's more than that. It's sci-fi, it's horror, it's all these other things. And having these new influx of new characters, and also really well-known characters, they aren't having to go down to the lower tiers of characters.
No.
That's valuable. Also, they can do something slightly different as well.
Yep. I mean, it does mean we could potentially get some better villains, because that's been our Marvel MCU criticism, hasn't it, for a while?
Absolutely.
And Salam Udeen, long-time listener, frequent writer inner. He's done a reasonably long email, but I'm going to read it all out because I think it's interesting and it ties in with this. He says it's called the Marvel Cinematic Universe for a reason. He's written that in capitals. And so far, we haven't seen much of it. 10 out of 13, soon 14, films have been mainly Earth-based stories. Look at the remaining Phase 3 slate, 3, maybe 4 out of 9 are not Earth-based stories. Bringing the Fantastic Four into this universe, I feel, will build upon it. More so the X-Men, I think, especially with the introduction of the Negative Zone. The Watcher, Silver Surfer, Skrulls, Super Skrulls, Kang the Conqueror will also kind of build up on this universe more. Furthermore, the MCU has been escalating the threat level in each phase. Phase 1, Loki tries to conquer Earth. Phase 2, Ultron tries to destroy Earth. Phase 3, Thanos tries to destroy everything, I guess, question mark. After Thanos, people and the audience may think, well, we've gone up against a mad titan who could have destroyed the universe. Pretty much sure we can handle anything else if we work as a team. Enter Galactus, Phase 4.
It's amazing.
What do you guys think?
I think the idea of... Well, the Fantastic Four is the Fox property that they've most messed up. Like, it's the most tarnished of all of them. So you think if that could be their Spider-Man, it's the one they're most willing to let go, even if they retain the X-Men. And the state of the Marvel Universe, the MCU that is, I can see the Fantastic Four being introduced in a much more organic way. The fact that they've already established the cosmic side of their universe, they can be introduced very easily through that. Also, they've also done period stuff in the MCU with Tony Stark, Howard Stark.
And
I would love, and Cap, I would love them to do the Fantastic Four in the MCU with it being a 50s, 60s space exploration and them just being lost for 50 years and they don't age for whatever reason because of the radiation, and then they're reintroduced through Guardians 3.
Well, they've done period pieces, but they haven't really done much time travel.
No.
Time travel is something that could be explored and bring this stuff in. And then finally on this point, sorry?
Through Strange as well, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's a character that could introduce that.
Jason Patel, sorry if I've pronounced that name wrong, from Nottingham, is talking about Fantastic Four in the MCU. He has some ideas how to introduce them. Infinity Wars. At some point, when the fight is in space, some sort of cosmic explosion finds its way to a nearby satellite station where the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom are working, and they reveal their powers in the end credits. Interesting.
I'd love to get Doom back as well.
Yeah, but done better. And this is in point form, so thank you for that. 2, Avengers need some help getting into space, and the Fantastic Four and Doom offer assistance. Collateral damage in a fight and some sort of cosmic explosion affects them, or even an Infinity Stone. And finally, Thanos on Earth, fight breaks out and some sort of cosmic explosion affects them in the lab. Basically, 3 different kinds of cosmic explosion.
He's consistent, if anything.
All good ideas.
Yeah, there's no bad ideas here, apart from the ones that are, and we will let you know. Yeah, I think that those will kind of work. I think, as much as I'm hopeful, I don't think we'd see them until Phase 4.
Yeah, I have a dream. I have a dream that in Phase 4, this all happens, and maybe using the Infinity Gauntlet, Scarlet Witch is able to bring her brother back from the dead, and then the 2 Quicksilvers go head-to-head in a race.
And that's the end.
And
it cuts to Kevin Feige, he just drops some big microphone.
That's the end of film. But those are some Phase 4 ideas. We've been talking in the office, we've been talking about this a lot, about what they could potentially do. So we're thinking about doing a whole show on what Phase 4 in 2020 could consist of.
Making our predictions now.
Yeah, so we'll come back to them in 4 years' time.
The beauty of making predictions 4 years out is if you get them wrong, no one will remember.
Probably won't be working here. This show probably won't exist.
None of this exists.
So yeah, maybe write into us with your Phase 4 ideas. Email is
superheroShow@ign.com.
Awesome. And we'll probably do that in a couple of weeks, I reckon.
Yeah. So this week's feedback, the first one is from Stephen Hume.
Very, serious point form here. The delineation between the points is quite something.
This big black bold line between all of them.
Never seen it before.
Good work, Stephen. Good work. With certain casting announcements recently with the MCU, it made me wonder if it's possible for an actor to take on a role in both a DC and a Marvel movie almost simultaneously without any backlash from fans in both camps. We don't have to be in camps. I'm just saying. I keep hearing he can't be Green Lantern, he's in Black Panther, or similar examples being said all too often. And the only question I have is why? We have had actors jump camps before, though usually their first attempt at a superhero is awful after a few-year gap. But why not have, say, Benedict Cumberbatch playing both Stephen Strange in Doctor Strange and having playing Hugo Strange in The Batman? Strange typecast. He's typecast as strangers.
Yeah.
If good actors are not looked at for roles based on the fact they've played a similar character already, which would be a bonus in any other type of movie, then both DC and Marvel will eventually run out of good actors to use. What do you think?
I think it's tricky.
Logistically?
Logistically, yeah, because these shoots last over a year, don't they? And you're tied to 3, 4, 5 picture deals. So if you take on a DC superhero and a Marvel superhero,
They're going to be shooting concurrently.
yeah, at the same time, and yeah, it's like 10 years. You're not going to be able to do anything that's not a
Yeah.
superhero. So I think it's tricky. There's no reason why you can't do it, but also, yeah, I think you're also trying not to confuse audiences. You know, it'd be like taking on Jason Bourne and James Bond the role at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think it's no reason why it couldn't happen. I just think it'd be tricky for audiences and tricky for the actor involved as well.
Yeah, because like I understand what you're saying. Like obviously there's transferable skills. You know, being heroic.
Yeah.
Chris Evans could be a great DC superhero.
Yeah, of course.
Because he has those qualities and he's a great actor.
Be a good Green Lantern.
And he looks good without his top off. Like we can all agree on that. But you know, some of these actors, you know, they do different films when they're not doing the superhero films because it's probably good for them.
Yeah.
They get
Healthy.
To like, yeah, it's healthy.
Oscar bait.
Explore different sides of themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So, yes and no.
Yeah.
This is from Jack Webb, who says, "Hi guys, love the show. However, you do make it rather challenging to find episodes of your show." So starts with a compliment and then kind of hits us in the stomach with a bit of a.
Thanks, Jack. So
Is there a place on your website where I can find all the episodes? Daniel has the answer.
So the Superhero Show goes live every Saturday morning, British time, around 11 o'clock. But if you want to never miss an episode, you should go to our YouTube channel, Superhero Show. You can find it through search. You can also find it through the main IGN channel. And you can subscribe there and never miss a single episode.
Yeah, and do that, because we actually moved it to its own channel, what, about 2-3 months ago?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not got as many subscribers as when we were on the IGN channel.
Yeah, but every subscriber there is there because they want to be.
Is a real subscriber. So do subscribe if you can, and tell your friends to subscribe as well.
Okay, cool.
And tell them to tell their friends. Was I just begging?
I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
That's how you build YouTube channels.
Right.
Adam Baker. When I left Batman v Superman in theatres, I was disappointed. And then when I learned about Zack Snyder having less power for the DC movies, I was really excited because I felt his style wasn't right for the DC world. No, he needed more guidance. A hatred grew on me for Zack Snyder. But I recently watched Man of Steel again, and it is one of my favourite superhero movies. And I was reminded that Zack Snyder did such a great job of capturing Superman in some beautiful shots. For instance, when Superman rises up and destroys the World Changer, it was so brilliant. My point is, I do think all the changes were right, but I shouldn't forget the brilliance of Zack Snyder when it comes to catching beautiful and epic shots. I think he's still an important part of the DC movies in the future, despite his failings in BVS. So do you think people are being harsh to Zack Snyder?
Yeah, well, so when we got this email, we did actually have a chat about doing a show called kind of In Defence of Zack Snyder, but then we kind of thought that would be contradicting ourselves, a bit hypocritical, because
yeah.
we weren't a fan of this
Yeah.
film. No denying he's good at visuals, as your man says there, but didn't enjoy the film that much, thought some of the problems were down to him.
Yeah, well, a film is more than visuals. We like these movies more
Mhm.
because they look nice. I think it's even possible to have one of these movies that doesn't look even that visually interesting and still is captivating in a different way. Maybe you should be a cinematographer or a storyboard artist. Like, he definitely brings that to the movie. Even Batman v Superman has some amazing sequences in it that look, you know, if you frame them, beautiful, iconic images.
Yeah.
But I watch these movies because I want to see character work and be surprised by the story and be moved and excited.
Yep.
And that's, for me, that goes beyond just the visual.
Al Patrickson wrote in on this front as well, and kind of was saying the first half of his email was saying that, you know, it probably wasn't Snyder who was responsible for the film not working, and blaming Warner Brothers and their corporate team and their marketing team. But I felt like that was just speculation, so I'm not really going to read those quotes out. But his second point was, with word that the R-rated extended edition of BVS is far superior to the theatrical cut, and that it makes the theatrical cut of BVS actually look like Warner Brothers butchered Snyder's version just to take out more time and more cash. Could you guys please do a superhero show on it if you think that the Ultimate Edition is greater than the theatrical cut, which would prove Snyder deserves one last shot at Justice League? Well, we've actually, our official kind of review, it's not really a review, but talks about what's been added into the film, is on the site now. Jim did it in the States and suggests that it isn't actually any better. It doesn't really add too much to the story, it just extends a lot of storylines without bringing much to the table. But we're going to have our own look at it if we can get hold of it as soon as possible, and maybe next week we'll do a show on the stuff we've liked in it, just to. But you know, does it prove Snyder deserves one last shot at Justice League? Well, he's got it, whether he deserves it or not.
Well. And also, to go back to times, I do really like Man of Steel. I liked it at the time, and I still like it. And if I catch it on TV, I'll watch it.
Both like it.
I think we maybe both think it's maybe not a great Superman movie in some ways, but it's a good superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, that's it for the superhero show this week. Any feedback on what you want to see in Phase 4 or Batman v Superman or just anything really? Set us no superhero show. Well, make it superhero related and bullet pointed. But within those constraints, much like the constraints Zack Snyder has to work within, we will read those emails out, superheroShow@ign.com. And until next week, stay safe. I don't know why I do the Crime Watch ending.
Stay safe.
Can we add that in?
Stay safe. When did you start doing that?
I don't know. I did I'm like Nicky Campbell.
Stay safe.